Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Inner Circle. Today, we're looking at an icon that often falls under the radar. Perhaps that has something to do with the fact that it is an acquired taste. After all, Cartier's other icons can be dated all the way back into the beginnings of the 20th century. The Pasha, the Janta design, is not even 40 years old yet. It dates back to 1984, so more than a decade after the release of Janta's most famous design, the Audemars Piguet Royal Oak, where Cartier commissioned him to create a waterproof watch, which in Cartier's catalog dates back to this piece that was made for the Pasha of Marrakesh and simply named étanche, waterproof. No sketches, examples, or any sign of that original watch remains. So Gérard Janta basically had um, a blank page, a carte blanche, so to speak, to come up with a design. And he basically went with his usual interplay of various geometric shapes by borrowing a few visual cues from Cartier's own archive. The center dial in original Pasha designs is usually a square, which contrasts with the perfectly round case, which sometimes has a rotational bezel that can serve as a dive timer. Uh, of course, nautical references in Gérard Janta's designs are dime a dozen. You can count in the same way the styling of the crown, which is called the cantine, and opens in the same way where you would unscrew the cap of a flask, and only then is the crown exposed, and you can set the time and date and etc. I've chosen three examples today. Personally, I like to think that these pieces, the Pasha in general, looks better on a leather strap. I like how that brings out the very elegant and slightly unusual look of the T-bar lugs, which are called Vendôme in Cartier jargon, originally designed by Louis Cartier and adopted for this watch by Gérard Janta. Lozenge or diamond-shaped hands, which are generously filled with lume. In this case, the choice was a big date, two-digit look for the date at 6 o'clock. A lot of times you will see it more discreetly lodged between 4 and 5 o'clock. There's a railroad track for the minutes and seconds, which you can say is in Cartier's bag, but Gérard Janta famously chose stylized Arabic numerals for this piece as opposed to Cartier's more conventional Roman numerals. This is the reduced size as at 35 millimeters, which actually wears quite well. Again, the design of the case, much like Gérard Janta's integrated bracelet watches like the Royal Oak, like the Nautilus, makes the piece wear larger than what the specs state on paper. I think this is one of the most beautiful and sporty iterations. Of course, it doesn't have the timing bezel, but still, I think the large Arabic numerals and the big date, as well as the self-winding movements, makes this a very stunning and unusually dynamic piece for a Pasha, if not for a Cartier at large. And this is like a deep blue dial and not a black one. Closed case back, no stone setting whatsoever on the crown. Very nice everyday wear for this Cartier Pasha, which has a very reasonable price point here on the real $2,560 and a quarter. Apparently, it is also available for display and trial at the Soho store in New York City. It comes with a jewelry pouch, apparently, and nothing else. That's one of the interesting things about the real. Sometimes they would have a full set of a rather pristine piece, and they would not photograph any of the collaterals. You have to kind of rummage through the listing to patch together the information, even call in or visit them to figure out what it is that they really have. But honestly, I think that makes it more fun. But even if that's not fun for you, it is certainly reflected in the prices positively. I feel like if they were really doing their due diligence, a lot of times their pricing would be significantly higher. Speaking of sporty complications, or rather sporty iterations of the Pasha, the next one that I'm going to look at is the GMT version with a fixed 24-hour bezel and a globescape design on the dial. Otherwise, you have a very similar piece. Black dial, big date indication at 6 o'clock. The 24-hour bezel divided basically to day and night as well, with night hours filled in with black and day hours left naked. Once again, this is the reduced size case at 35 millimeters. Preserved in a decent condition on its matching stainless steel bracelet. Lozenge hands for the hour and minutes. Spear-tipped sweep center seconds hand, and lollipop hand for the 24-hour indication for the extra hour hand. I think this is a very useful and interesting watch. And again, the price point is very attractive, especially if you're approaching this piece from an aesthetic and utilitarian standpoint. At this price point, you certainly won't find high horology in Cartier. A lot of times the movements are based on run-of-the-mill ETA calibers, but you will find decent quality. You will find the connotation of luxury, you will find timeless design, and a lot of times you will find great value for money, which is the case with this Pasha GMT watch. Stainless steel, 35 millimeters of case diameter on its matching bracelets, which you can easily replace with a leather strap. Of course, you can get a custom one. Cartier Pasha is a very well-known model where you can do that easily, or you can just go to the Cartier boutique to get it changed with something appropriate. This particular piece is listed on the Real for $2,495 in US dollars. Also available apparently in their Dallas, Knox, Henderson store for immediate pickup or for inspection. The piece once again comes naked, just the watch only. Well, the other one had a jewelry pouch apparently, but who really cares? For the third one, I went for even a different complication. This is the Chronograph, 36 millimeters in diameter. It has also a date indicator through a porthole-like opening right at 4:30. The lozenge hands for the hour and minutes are this time heat blued and filled with lume. There is a tachymeter on the periphery of the dial, and the centrally deployed chronograph seconds hand is heat blued as well. The lozenge-shaped hands in the chronograph register hearken to the shape of the hands for the hour and minutes, and the seconds hand out of them, which is in the counter at 3 o'clock, is also loomed. There's a 30-minute totalizer at 9 o'clock and a 12-hour counter at 6. Once again, we have a piece on its matching stainless steel bracelet. And relatively well-preserved condition as well. This piece is listed on the Real for 2,750 and 25 cents. We have talked about the Real before. Again, it's not necessarily the first place that comes to mind when you are shopping for watches. But as it happens, especially when it comes to these kind of slightly hyped pieces that appeal to the mainstream, decent watches that come from otherwise fashion and luxury brands such as Cartier, Hermes, and even at times Chanel, the Real is a great place to pick up one of those pieces for a great deal. It's hit or miss. It's hit and miss. So you have to be careful. You have to be judicious. And that's why I go through the trouble of picking the best examples and the best deals for you. Stay tuned. If you have any questions about the Cartier Pasha, about these particular listings, please feel free to send me a line here on Patreon. You should feel free to find me on Instagram as well at young.brando. And you can always email me at lordhellespont5@gmail.com. That is lordhellespont@gmail.com. I'll see you in the next one. Thank you for your presence and support.